times, no success. So I got to figure out what the heck's going on there. And I don't have time to do it before everything starts. So here we are once again on a Wednesday at noon Eastern, answering all of your questions, any of your questions, many of your questions. As you can see below, free webinar tomorrow talking about how to transform your culture from the inside out. Doesn't matter what role you're in, any of that, doesn't matter. I'm going to give you the tools to start on Friday, to start making changes, start making progress on Friday to get that culture you really wish your team or department or company had. You can do it. Just takes a little bit of spark. And off it's going. Because everybody wants a good culture. Everybody does. Just some people might not know what to do. We're going to fix that. You're going to fix that. Problem solved. So it'll be interesting to see how turnout is today without LinkedIn, since that's a pretty standard channel for us. But it's not being nice today. So we'll do what we can with it, while also dealing with a mouthy dog over here. She just scared herself. Now LinkedIn just it keeps telling me I have to reconnect my account to reauthorize things, which I've done about 5 times today, a couple times yesterday, and it's just not happening. So I'll figure it out after, but I didn't have time to get it locked in before that. So yeah, turnout's going to be different today, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. That's one thing I wish Restream, which is a tool that I use, did better in giving me attendance by channel. It doesn't do that, which is kind of annoying, but it's effective at what it does. Get off those shoes. Sorry, she wants attention today. Okay, well, 4 minutes after, which is, of course, the designated starting time for any meeting, thanks to Jessica Matthews and her rule of fame, transforming company cultures into starting meetings at 4 after, no matter what. I'm going to have to send her a clip of that because she'll hate it. Until then, if you have any questions, fire away. Oh, there it is. It's 12:04. 12:04 signaled by a bark, if you heard that. And another one. A couple of questions as the interviewee. What are the questions that I ask? I'm going to tell you the questions that I ask because it's the things that are important to me. They might not apply to the things that are at the top of your list, but I'll go down some other questions depending on what your top items are. Given the fact that I'm always talking about culture, I did it yesterday. I'm going to do it tomorrow, and then I'm going to create an online course about it. Culture is, of course, at the top of my list, and understanding, does it even exist intentionally, or is it just a set of accidents that happened? Maybe it's like Bob Ross and they're happy little accidents, or maybe it's not, and it's not so great. A couple of the key definers when I'm talking to leaders in an organization is understanding, can they rattle off a vision and mission for the company? Can they also recite the core values? Unfortunately, it's relatively rare for a leader in the organization to be able to regurgitate those instantly. They should be able to, because otherwise what is the culture? And this isn't always the fault of that leader. It's often the fault of the executives or whoever came up with the mission statement or vision statement and those things, because they are probably 7 paragraphs filled with business bingo buzzwords, just chock full of it, that no one can recite it. So then how do you know the company's all on the same page? Easy, they're not. Again, it would go back to Bob Ross, happy little accidents. So that's very important to me. And, there's a spectrum of answers. Maybe they're close, maybe they're not. But I at least need to know where the company sits on that front. The second key question for me, if I had to boil it down to 2, I would probably ask, when was the last time you fired somebody? Not because of a reduction in force where the company doesn't have the money to support those roles, but there was an underperformer that needed to leave and you helped them out of the business. I'd like to know that they're actually evaluating their talent, their employees, and continually grooming and refining that team to get it as optimal as possible. Once they tell me when they do that, then I follow up with like, okay, how'd that go? What'd you do? How did you handle it? How did the person respond? Again, to understand how intentional they are with empathy and their culture. So those are 2 important things for me, because how many places have you been where there's that brilliant asshole that everybody hates to work with? Like, oh, we can't lose that person, which is 100% incorrect. And nobody likes to work at those places. So I want to make sure it's a place that's going to get rid of the jerks. Like that's all I'm asking. If they're jerks, get rid of them. They're just not a fit. It's just not who we want to be. So those are for me. If I were in a more technical role, I would certainly want to understand how far in the future, how healthy is their planning. I wouldn't use any other words than that. I wouldn't give them the word roadmap or sprint plans or anything. Just like, how healthy is it? How far into the future do you have an idea of the things that you're doing, and how does an item make it on that list and like filter through? For me as an engineer or a member of a Scrum team, I need to know that my team's going to be fed well. Is the table always going to be well stocked with good, healthy things to do? Or is it always going to be fast food that last minute gets dropped on the table and says, hey, here, build this. It's in the bag, figure it out. As opposed to having a little deeper bit of clarity on what's coming next so that you can prepare accordingly and be ready to build the thing well. So from an engineering perspective, to me, that's a huge question mark with so many companies. Do they even have a product team? If they do, are they allowed to actually product, or does an executive swing in and give them all the answers? So they're really just like that guy in Office Space that says he takes the documents from the so and so and gives it to the developers. That's not people don't like that. They want to be able to affect change, not just be a traffic cop that sits in the middle. You ever see a happy traffic cop? I don't think that's what they want to be doing. I'm sure there's some memes on TikTok or something of some traffic cop dancing. But take a look next time a stoplight's out in your town or whatever it is there. They're not happy to be there. Other thing that's important to me is, understanding their approach to DevOps. And I might just ask that question. I'd probably ask it just like that to see how they define DevOps. Is it a cultural thing? Is it a person? Is it a role? Is it a tool? Is it DevOps is one of those things that just gets overused. I was talking to a potential customer the other day, and they mentioned they got a new CIO, and they were told they did not need product people anymore because they're adopting the DevOps culture. How those two intersect, I'm unable to see at this point. So if anybody can answer that question, I've got somebody you should talk to, because that just doesn't make sense to me. But I want to know that there's a pipeline in place that provides me with fast feedback on my changes. Can I commit my code or the pull request, whatever label it is, for you to get code in the system and have it run through all the things and get feedback within 15 minutes? That's always been my bar for success. Anytime the CI and CD takes more than 15 minutes, it loses its value. So that's always been a limiter for me and my teams, is once it gets beyond 15 minutes, we have to stop and fix whatever the problem is so that it actually gets used. Because once it takes more than 15 minutes, people just they push the code in and then they move along and they just don't wait for it, because then it gets backed up and it's just a mess. So is there an actual pipeline, or do they tell you that, hey, yeah, we have Jenkins, but it doesn't, it does a build and that's it. It doesn't do anything with it. Doesn't run any tests or anything. It just does a thing, which again, that doesn't actually add any value. It's always interesting to hear branching strategies and how people roll with that, because sometimes it is crazy. It doesn't have to be crazy, but some people really overcomplicate it. So all those things will give you insight into how that engineering team runs, and is it going to be a healthy place to jump into it? And no one's going to be perfect, right? So don't wait for perfect, but is it going to be good enough that, hey, yeah, they're close, I think I can help get them over the hump, and then we'll be fine. Mm. Yeah, if only there was an upcoming webinar. Well, that across cultures question is a tricky one. I screwed that up. We had built an amazing engineering culture here in our local office, and we were very proud of it. People were trying to copy it. It was clearly respected in the industry, and we knew we were doing good stuff. And then our company got acquisition happy, which was fine. It was cool. And so now those engineering teams that were on those companies were now a part of my team. And I was so proud. We were so proud of what we had built that we forced everybody into it. We forced everybody to operate the way that we operated. So that was a little 3-person team. That was a team in Eastern Europe and another team in Southeast Asia, where I now said, this is how you shall work. Go. And that was a failure across the board. Across the board. Not one of them was empowered, accelerated, or anything positive by that move. And what I had to learn is I had to be respectful of the culture that they had built, whether it's exactly what I wanted, how I would do it or not, it doesn't matter because those cultures have been around for a while and you can't just flip a switch on it and expect them to continue the way that they have. It's no different than when I get called in for a transformation and there are members of the team that did not choose to work in an agile manner. They didn't sign up for that. All these teams that we acquired didn't sign up for that either. So what we ended up doing was I boiled it down to there's three things that you have to do. How you execute those, that's up to you. You do it however's best in your country, in your team culture, whatever it is. But every 2 weeks, you must show the work that you have completed. Every month, you have to provide an updated view of what you think you're going to do for the next 6 sprints. And also, every month, you need to provide an updated view of what you think you're going to be able to do over the next year, broken down quarter by quarter. That's it. How you choose to execute that doesn't matter. But those were the communication protocols that we had established within the company for the products and projects that we were working on. People knew how to get the info, where to get it, what it meant by the standards of those three things that we had put in place. And all three of those companies had something similar. So they just had to, tweak things a little bit and put it in the format, which was pretty simple for us. And they could still keep doing the things that they do the way they do it, the way they've been successful doing it, the way they've been successful enough to get acquired. So building that company culture across countries is tough. The only time I've had marginal success was when I had a team in China and they were a member. It was our company. We opened a engineering shop there. So they reported fully through me and they were just a part of us. They were an extension of us. So that allowed me to have the time to go spend a few weeks there, understand how they rolled, see how it could fit in. So that's the closest I've ever come to a unified culture, but you're never really going to get unified because just places are different, people are different. And you have to accept that, which I was unwilling to early in my career. Yeah. Okay. Well, Stephen, it's good chatting with you. Chatting at you, I guess, is probably more the reality of what's happening. Last chance for anybody else to jump in and say, wait, I got a question. Speak now. Type now. Hand is moving over. The mouse is in control. It's hovering over the end stream button. And before I click, thank you, Stephen. Thank you, anybody else who's there that doesn't show that they're here. Appreciate you showing up every Wednesday, listening in, all that stuff. You are right, Stephen. Yeah. I didn't respect that well enough, but I have learned my lesson. Okay. As Stephen Kellogg 22 has said, see y'all